The school bus was heading back to base after a field trip to the Natural History Museum. 32 children sat in their seats talking excitedly about the dinosaur bones they had seen. Their teacher, Ms. Han Yu-jin, smiled as she listened to their chatter. It had been a perfect day for learning. None of them saw the alien ship that landed ahead of them on the mountain road. The bus driver, Park Seung-min, only had time to hit the brakes before strange creatures surrounded his vehicle. He reached for his emergency communicator, but something invisible struck him. Unconscious, the 6 remaining assassins moved quickly to secure their hostages. Shadow Step used his invisibility to disable the bus's communications equipment. Razorwing circled overhead, watching for any rescue attempts. The others herded the frightened children into an abandoned ranger station deep in the forest. Among the captives was 8-year-old Park Ji-woo, daughter of Taeho's old war buddy, Captain Park Hyun-woo. The little girl tried to comfort her younger classmates even though she was terrified herself. She had heard her father tell stories about the scary aliens that wanted to hurt humans. Vex, the shapeshifter, contacted the military base using the bus's radio system. His message was broadcast on all frequencies so everyone would hear it. He demanded that Kim Tae-ho surrender himself within 6 hours or the children would start dying. 1 child every hour until the target gave himself up, the alien leader thought. He had finally found Tae-ho's weakness. No human soldier could ignore crying children. The target would have to choose between his own life and the lives of innocent kids. It seemed like an easy choice for any decent person. General Park Min-ho received the transmission at base headquarters. He immediately mobilized every available soldier to search for the missing children. Military helicopters took off to scan the forest. Ground teams prepared to sweep every trail and cabin. But they all knew they were running out of time. Min-ho also sent a priority message to his old friend Kim Tae-ho. The general expected Tae-ho to demand immediate rescue operations. He thought the grieving widower would beg him to save the children at any cost. Instead, he got a reply that chilled his blood. "Do not negotiate with killers," Tae-ho's message said. "Do not pay ransom to murderers. Keep all rescue teams at least 5 kilometers away from the target area. I will handle this personally. The children will be safe by midnight. The aliens will not." Min-ho stared at the message in horror. This was not the man he had known for 20 years. The old Tae-ho would have moved heaven and earth to save those kids. He would have gladly died to protect a single child. But grief and rage had changed him into something colder and more calculating. The general wanted to ignore his friend's orders and send in the rescue teams anyway. But he had seen what Tae-ho could do when he was motivated. The Ghost of Titan Station had never failed a mission in 2 decades of service. If anyone could save those children, it was Kim Tae-ho. Deep in the forest, the assassins waited for their target to contact them. Vex had chosen the ranger station carefully. It sat in a clearing with no cover for approaching enemies. The building had only one entrance and thick stone walls. Motion sensors surrounded the perimeter. It seemed like the perfect defensive position, but the aliens had made a fundamental error. They thought they were fighting a human soldier who followed rules of war. They expected Tae-ho to try negotiating or attempt a conventional rescue. They had no idea what kind of enemy they were really facing. Tae-ho spent 2 hours studying the ranger station from a distance. He used military-grade binoculars to count the guards and identify their positions. He mapped every window and door. He studied the surrounding terrain for weak points. Then he began to prepare his assault. The first step was cutting the power to the entire area. Tae-ho located the main electrical transformer and planted shaped charges around its base. When the explosives detonated, the forest went completely dark. Emergency lighting inside the station flickered on but provided only dim illumination. The assassins immediately went on high alert. Gornith positioned himself at the main entrance. Silka coiled around the ventilation system. Razorwing took to the air to scout for incoming attacks. They were ready for anything except what actually happened. Tae-ho did not attack the building directly. Instead, he began systematically eliminating the guards from the outside. His first target was Death Song, who had been posted on the roof as a lookout. The alien could kill with his voice, but only if he saw his enemies coming. Taeho approached through the station's blind spot using a gully that Rain had carved in the hillside. He climbed the roof level and crawled across the tiles without making a sound. Death Song never saw the knife that cut his throat. He died in silence with a look of surprise on his face. The second guard fell 10 minutes later. Shadow Step was patrolling the perimeter using his invisibility to avoid detection, but his footprints still showed in the soft earth. Taeho followed the tracks to an ambush point and waited. When the invisible alien passed by, Taeho grabbed him from behind and snapped his neck. Inside the station, the remaining assassins began to realize their security was failing. They could not contact their perimeter guards. Their motion sensors showed movement but no clear targets. Something was hunting them in the darkness and they could not see what it was. Vex ordered his team to bring all the children into the main room where they could watch them more carefully. The little hostages huddled together on the floor crying softly. Jiwoo tried to keep the younger ones calm by telling them stories about brave knights who rescued princesses, but there would be no rescue tonight. Only Vengeance. Taeho entered the building through the ventilation system that Silka was supposed to be guarding. He found the snake-like alien coiled around a junction box fast asleep. Her species was cold-blooded and became sluggish when the temperature dropped. The mountain air was much colder than her homeworld. The poisonous assassin never woke up. Taeho used wire from the electrical system to strangle her. Her venom could kill with a single drop, but it was useless if she could not bite her victim. He left her body in the ductwork and continued toward the main room. Razorwing was still circling outside. When the attack came from within, he heard his teammates shouting over the radio, but their words made no sense. They claimed the human was inside the building, but that was impossible. He had been watching the entrance for hours. The flying assassin dove toward the station to help his friends. He never saw the cable that Taeho had strung between two trees. The wire caught Razorwing across the throat and nearly decapitated him. His body crashed into the forest with a sound like breaking branches. Now only Vex and Gornith remained alive. The shapeshifter tried to contact his backup team but got no response. His perimeter guards were dead. His flying scout was down. His snake and his singer had vanished without a trace. How could one human kill so many trained assassins? The answer walked through the station's front door as calm as death itself. Kim Tae-ho stepped into the emergency lighting carrying weapons he had taken from the dead aliens. His clothes were torn and bloody, but his eyes were steady. He looked like a demon that had crawled out of hell. "Let the children go," he said in a voice like grinding stone. "Your fight is with me." Vex shifted into his true form, a writhing mass of shadow and teeth. "Surrender yourself, human, or they all die." Taeho smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I already surrendered 3 months ago when your people killed my wife. Now I have nothing left to lose and you have everything to fear." The final battle began with Gornith charging like an avalanche. The massive alien had strength enough to tear apart armored vehicles. But Taeho had fought creatures like this before. He used the alien's momentum against him, rolling aside at the last second and driving a plasma blade into Gornith's spine. The granite warrior fell like a toppled mountain. His death roar shook the entire building. The children screamed and covered their ears. But their nightmare was almost over. Vex tried to escape by shifting into the shape of one of the hostages, but Taeho had been watching carefully. He knew which child was which. The shapeshifter made his final mistake when he chose to become Jiwoo. "You should have studied humans more carefully," Taeho said as he put his gun to the fake child's head. "We can always tell our own children from alien monsters." When the sun rose the next morning, 32 children walked out of the forest. Unharmed, they were scared and tired but alive. Behind them, the ranger station burned like a funeral pyre for the alien assassins who had underestimated human determination. G-Woo stopped beside Taeho before boarding the rescue helicopter. The little girl looked up at the man who had saved them all. "Thank you, Uncle Taeho," she said. "Will you tell us a story sometime about how you beat the monsters?" Taeho knelt down and touched her cheek gently. For just a moment his expression softened, and he looked almost human again. "Monsters are not for children to worry about," he said. "That is what soldiers are for." The emergency transmission reached the Galactic Coalition fleet while they were patrolling the outer system. Admiral Zex-9 read the desperate message from the assassin team with growing alarm. All 10 killers were dead. The human target had eliminated them one by one like they were training dummies. This was impossible. Kim Tae-ho was just one aging soldier on a primitive world. The Coalition had sent their best assassins to eliminate him. These were professionals who had never failed a mission. How could a single human destroy them? All but the evidence was undeniable. Surveillance satellites showed the ranger station burning. Bodies of alien warriors lay scattered across the military base. The most feared killers in the galaxy had been hunted down like animals by someone they had dismissed as broken prey. Admiral ZEX-9 contacted Coalition Command for new orders. The response came back within an hour. Forget stealth, forget subtlety. Use overwhelming force to destroy the target and his entire planet if necessary. Earth must be taught that no one defies. The Galactic Coalition. 3 battleships changed course toward Earth. Each vessel carried enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. Their crews were veteran warriors who had conquered dozens of worlds. They would finish what the assassins had started and make an example of humanity, but Kim Tae-ho had expected this escalation. He had been in contact with Earth's defense network throughout the assassin crisis. Every move the aliens made had been observed and reported. When the Coalition fleet approached Earth's solar system, they found humanity ready and waiting. Admiral Nam Sujin commanded Earth's orbital defense platforms from her flagship Victory's Promise. She was a small woman with iron in her spine who had fought beside Tae-ho during the war against the Zephyr Empire. She knew that the aliens had murdered Sora and tried to kill her old friend. Now they would pay for their crimes. The space battle began when the Coalition ships entered weapons range. Their commanders expected easy victory against primitive human technology. Earth's fleet was newer to galactic warfare. Their ships were smaller and their crews less experienced. It should have been a massacre. They were wrong about humans again. Sujin's ships used tactics no alien commander had ever seen. Human captains flew their vessels like fighter craft instead of ponderous battleships. They made impossible turns and suicidal attack runs that violated every rule of space combat. They treated their ships like weapons instead of precious assets. Captain Lee Dongha commanded the destroyer Eternal Vengeance. When the Coalition flagship targeted his ship with its main guns, he did not try to evade. Instead, he accelerated directly toward the alien vessel at maximum speed. His crew thought he had gone insane, but Dongha knew exactly what he was doing. At the last possible second, he ejected his ship's entire missile payload and used emergency thrusters to veer away. 50 nuclear warheads struck the Coalition battleship at point-blank range. The explosion could be seen from Earth's surface. The second alien ship tried to retreat, but found its path blocked by the orbital defense stations. These massive structures had been built using technology learned from captured alien vessels. They packed more firepower than most planetary governments. Station Commander Park Jin-woo had been Sora's colleague in the engineering corps. She had helped design the very weapons that were now tearing alien ships apart. Each shot fired was dedicated to her memory and the memory of everyone else the Coalition had murdered. The third battleship lasted only minutes longer than its companions. Captain Kim Hae-jin of the cruiser Righteous Fury used her ship's ramming prow to split the alien vessel in half. Her own ship was destroyed in the collision, but she ejected her crew in escape pods first. She died with a smile, knowing she had avenged her homeworld. The entire battle lasted less than an hour. 3 Coalition battleships lay in ruins while Earth's defenders remained mostly intact. The aliens had learned a costly lesson about human tactics. When humans fought, they did not try to preserve their equipment or minimize casualties. They fought to win at any cost. News of the space battle reached Kim Tae-ho while he was visiting Sora's grave. He knelt beside her headstone and told her spirit about the aliens who had come to kill him. He promised that her death would not go unavenged. Soon everyone who had played a role in her murder would be dead. The message from General Minho came an hour later. Coalition survivors were requesting immediate ceasefire negotiations. They claimed the attack on Earth had been unauthorized. They offered to pay reparations for any damage caused. They begged for mercy. Tejo's response was delivered in person at the base's communication center. He wanted everyone to hear what he had to say. His words would be recorded and broadcast throughout the galaxy. Every alien government would know what happened when they threatened humanity. "I am Kim Tejo, soldier of Earth," he began in perfect Galactic standard language. "Your assassins came to my world and murdered my wife Lee Sora. She was a good woman who believed in peace between our species. She died because she discovered your crimes against human colonies." The transmission continued as Tejo described each assassin's death in clinical detail. He wanted the aliens to know that their best killers had been hunted down like rabid animals. He wanted them to understand that human soldiers were not the primitive warriors they believed. "You sent 10 killers to my world," Tejo said. "I am sending their bodies back to you as a message. Any government that threatens Earth or its colonies will receive the same treatment. Any criminal organization that harms human civilians will be destroyed. Any individual who attacks my people will die." But the most chilling part of the message came at the end. Tejo looked directly into the camera with eyes like winter storms. Behind him stood a picture of Sora smiling in her wedding dress. The contrast between her gentle beauty and his cold fury was stark. "My wife believed in diplomacy and negotiation," he said. "I believed in those things too before you killed her. Now I believe only in justice and vengeance. I am returning to active duty with Earth's Special Operations Command. My new mission is to hunt down everyone involved in Sora's murder." Tejo paused to let that sink in. Coalition officials watching the transmission felt ice forming in their blood. They knew this human's reputation. The ghost of Titan Station had never failed to complete a mission. If he was coming for them personally, their lives were already over. "You have a choice to make," Tejo continued. "Surrender yourselves for trial by human courts. Face justice for your crimes. Accept punishment for what you have done. Or wait for me to come and collect you personally. I promise you will not like the second option." The message ended with Tejo placing a single white flower on Sora's picture. It was the same type of flower from her wedding bouquet. His gesture was gentle, almost tender, but his voice remained hard as steel. "My wife wanted children someday," he said quietly. "She wanted to see peace between humans and aliens. She wanted to explore the galaxy and make friends with different species. You took all of that away from her. You took away her future and mine. Now I will take away yours." The transmission cut to black, leaving the watching aliens in stunned silence. They had expected threats and bluster from a grieving husband. Instead, they had heard the calm promise of professional death. This was not an emotional outburst. This was a declaration of war. Within hours of the broadcast, coalition governments began issuing public apologies to Earth. 3 star systems formally condemned the attack on human colonies. 5 planetary governors resigned rather than face Tejo's justice. The galaxy's black market slave trade went into hiding overnight, but some criminals were too arrogant to take the warning seriously. They thought one human soldier could not threaten the entire galactic underworld. They believed their money and connections would protect them from retaliation. They decided to fight back instead of surrender. They would learn their mistakes soon enough. Kim Tae-ho was already preparing for his next mission. The war against his wife's killers had only just begun. Soon the galaxy would understand why humans had never lost a war. In her grave, Sora slept peacefully for the first time since her murder. Her husband's promise of vengeance would be kept. Every person responsible for her death would answer for their crimes. Justice would finally be served, even if it took the rest of Taeho's life to deliver it. The widow's wrath had been unleashed upon the galaxy. Nothing would ever be the same again. The ship landed in darkness outside the city limits. No human radar detected its arrival. No satellite spotted its black hull against the night sky. The vessel was built for stealth and carried the deadliest killers in the galaxy. 10 creatures emerged from the ship. Each one represented a different alien species. Each one had never failed a mission. They moved like shadows across the landscape, heading toward the military base where their target lived. Their leader was Vex, a shapeshifter from the Shadow Worlds. His body could change into any form he chose. He could become human or alien or even objects like furniture or weapons. His teammates called him the perfect killer because no one ever saw his true face until it was too late. Gornith was the muscle of the group. He stood 3 meters tall with skin like granite. His species evolved on a high-gravity world where only the strongest survived. He could crush steel with his bare hands and had once torn a battle tank apart piece by piece. His victims never had time to scream. Silka moved like liquid poison. Her snake-like body could squeeze through spaces barely wider than a coin. Her fangs carried venom that could kill an elephant with a single drop. She had murdered 3 planetary leaders by slithering through their ventilation systems. Security cameras never caught more than a glimpse of her tail, the insect warrior. Krell could climb any surface. His 6 legs ended in razor-sharp claws that could cut through titanium. His compound eyes saw in complete darkness. He preferred to kill his targets while they slept. Most victims never woke up when his claws found their throats. Sathara was the team telepath. She could read minds from a kilometer away. No target could hide their thoughts from her probing mental touch. She knew their fears, their secrets, their plans before they did. Her victims often went insane from her mental attacks before she bothered to kill them physically. The remaining 5 assassins each brought their own special skills. Razorwing could fly at supersonic speeds. Bone Crusher could break through any barrier. Vortex moved faster than human eyes could follow. Shadow Step could become invisible at will. Death Song could kill with his voice alone. Together they were unstoppable. The Galactic Coalition had sent them to eliminate threats across 100 worlds. Kings and generals and rebel leaders had all fallen to their combined skills. No target had ever survived once they were marked for death, but Earth was different from other worlds. The assassins had studied human military records and dismissed them as primitive. Humans had only been in space for 50 years. Their technology was crude compared to alien science. Their soldiers used simple tactics that any advanced species could counter. They were wrong about humans, but they would not realize their mistake until it was too late. The assassins spent 3 days studying their target. They watched Kim Tae-ho from hidden positions around his house. They recorded his daily routine and mapped his movements. They identified his weaknesses and planned their attack. Every morning at sunrise, Tae-ho visited his wife's grave in the military cemetery. He would stand there for exactly 20 minutes, then walk home along the same path. He never varied his route or his timing. To the watching aliens, he seemed predictable and vulnerable. In the afternoons, he went shopping for groceries. He always bought the same things from the same stores. He spoke to no one except the cashiers. He carried no weapons that the assassins could detect. He looked like a broken man going through the motions of living. Evenings found him sitting in his backyard reading books. The assassins used long-range scanners to see what he was reading. Technical manuals about spaceship engineering, poetry, collections in Korean, romance novels that had belonged to his dead wife. Nothing suggested he was preparing for combat. The aliens concluded that their target had given up. Grief had destroyed his fighting spirit. The famous warrior who had once terrorized alien armies was now just a sad old man waiting to die. Killing him would be almost too easy. They decided to strike on a Tuesday night when the base was quiet. Krell would infiltrate the house through an upstairs window. His natural stealth and climbing ability made him perfect for breaking into secure locations. The others would wait outside in case something went wrong. Krell approached the house at midnight. His infrared vision showed a single heat signature in the master bedroom. The target was asleep and alone. Perfect conditions for a silent kill. The insect warrior climbed the outside wall and slipped through an unlocked window. The bedroom was dark and quiet. Krell could see the outline of a human body under the blankets. He moved across the floor without making a sound. his claws extended, ready to slash the sleeping man's throat. This would be over in seconds. He reached the bed and struck downward with lightning speed. His claws tore through the blankets and into the pillows beneath. Feathers exploded into the air. There was no body, no blood, no screaming victim. Only pillows arranged to look like a sleeping person. Krell spun around searching for his target. The room appeared empty, but his instincts screamed danger. Where was the human? Why had he arranged a decoy? Where was he hiding? The answer came from above. Tejo dropped from the ceiling where he had been waiting motionless for 2 hours. He landed on Krell's back and wrapped his arms around the alien's throat. The insect warrior was strong, but Tejo had fought creatures like this before. The battle lasted 10 seconds. Krell tried to throw off his attacker, but Tejo held on like a drowning man. The alien's claws slashed at the air, trying to reach the human behind him. But Tejo stayed in his blind spot and slowly crushed his windpipe. When Krell stopped moving, Tejo let the body fall to the floor. He was breathing hard but felt more alive than he had in months. The first assassin was dead. 9 more were waiting outside. Tejo wrapped the alien's body in Earth's flag and carried it downstairs. He wrote a simple note in Galactic standard language and pinned it to the corpse. Then he dragged the body outside and left it where the other assassins would find it. The note said, 9 left, in neat, precise handwriting. When the remaining assassins found Krell's body at sunrise, they realized they had made a terrible mistake. This was not some grief-stricken widower. This was Kim Tejo, the ghost of Titan Station, the man who had held off 3 alien armies single-handed during the Outer Rim War, the human who had never lost a battle in 20 years of combat, but they were professionals with a job to finish. The Coalition was paying them millions of credits to eliminate this target. They had their reputations to consider. No human had ever defeated a full team of galactic assassins. Vex gathered his remaining 9 killers and began planning a new strategy. They would attack together using their combined abilities to overwhelm their target. Surely 10 alien warriors could handle 1 aging human soldier. They did not know that Tejo was counting on exactly that decision. He was not just defending himself anymore, he was hunting them back. And he had spent 3 days preparing the perfect battlefield. Tejo did not wait for the 9 remaining assassins to come for him. He left his house before dawn and became the hunter instead of the hunted. The military base was his territory, and he knew every building, every tunnel, every hiding place better than any alien ever could. For 20 years he had been Earth's most dangerous special operations soldier. He had learned to fight in jungles and deserts and asteroid fields. He had mastered every weapon from ancient swords to plasma cannons. He had studied alien psychology and combat tactics. Now he would use all those skills to turn his home into a death trap. The base covered 50 square kilometers of Earth's surface. It contained barracks and training facilities and weapons storage areas. There were underground tunnels that connected important buildings. There were maintenance shafts that ran beneath the streets. There were abandoned structures from the base's early days that most people had forgotten about. Tejo spent the morning preparing his battlefield. He planted explosives in empty buildings using charges stolen from the demolition depot. He rigged motion sensors to trigger alarms that would tell him when enemies approached. He scattered weapons caches throughout the base so he would never be far from guns or ammunition. The second kill happened at the central market, where soldiers and their families bought food and supplies. Sithara, the telepath, had been tracking what she thought was Tejo's mental signature. Her species could read thoughts from great distances, but they had to concentrate to filter out background noise from other minds. She followed the signal to the produce section where vendors sold fresh fruits and vegetables. The mental signature led to a man in a hooded jacket standing near the apple display. Sithara approached, carefully reading his surface thoughts. He was thinking about his grocery list and wondering if his wife would like the red apples or the green ones. Perfect. A distracted target was easy prey. Sithara moved closer and prepared to strike with her mental powers. She would drive him insane with visions of terror, then kill him while he screamed. But when she tried to probe deeper into his mind, she found something unexpected. The man was not Kim Tejo. He was Choi Dong-woo, a local farmer who sold vegetables at the market twice a week. Someone had given him Taeho's jacket and asked him to wear it while shopping. The farmer had no idea he was being used as bait. Suthara realized the deception. Too late. The real Taeho appeared behind her, having approached through her mental blind spot. She spun around, but he was already moving. His hand clamped over her mouth before she could scream. His knife found her heart before she could use. Her telepathic powers, the alien telepath, died quietly among the fruit stands. Taeho lowered her body to the ground and covered it with empty vegetable crates. He left another note pinned to her chest. 8 left, it said. Then he melted back into the crowd before anyone noticed what had happened. The third assassin died. 2 hours later. Vortex was the fastest member of the team, capable of moving like lightning across any terrain. He had tracked Taeho to the old warehouse district on the edge of the base. The buildings there had been empty for years and seemed like perfect places to hide. Vortex used his incredible speed to search each warehouse in seconds. He moved so fast that human eyes would see only a blur, but speed meant nothing when every path led to a trap. Taeho had spent hours preparing this area for exactly this kind of attack. The alien sprinted into the third warehouse and immediately triggered a tripwire. The floor gave way beneath his feet, dropping him into a pit filled with sharpened metal spikes. His own momentum carried him downward faster than he could stop. The spikes punched through his body like needles through paper. Vortex died instantly, impaled on a dozen titanium points. Taeho looked down at the body from the warehouse catwalk where he had been waiting. He dropped another note into the pit. 7 left. It read along with coordinates, showing where the body could be found. By now, the surviving assassins were beginning to understand their situation. They were not hunting some broken widower. They were facing a professional soldier who had turned their own tactics against them. Every move they made seemed to play into his hands. Every trap they avoided led to another trap. Vex called his remaining team together in an abandoned office building. The shapeshifter was angry and frustrated. No single human should be able to defeat trained galactic assassins. But Kim Tae-ho was not behaving like any human they had studied. Gornith, the granite-skinned warrior, wanted to smash through every building on the base until they found their target. Razorwing suggested aerial reconnaissance to spot Tae-ho from above. Shadowstep offered to scout invisible while the others waited in ambush, but Vex had a better idea. They would use the one weakness all humans shared, their need to protect innocent people. The assassins would take hostages and force Tae-ho to come to them. Then they would kill him in front of his own people to send a message about what happened. To those who defied the Galactic Coalition, the plan seemed foolproof. Humans always chose to save others even at the cost of their own lives. It was their greatest weakness and the reason so many alien species considered them inferior. Their emotions made them predictable and vulnerable, but Vex did not understand the kind of man he was facing. Kim Tae-ho had once been ruled by human emotions like love and compassion and mercy. Those feelings had died with his wife. What remained was something colder and more dangerous than any alien warrior. The fourth kill happened while the assassins were planning their hostage operation. Bonecrusher had been guarding their temporary base while the others discussed strategy. The massive alien could break through any barrier with his bare hands. He stood 4 meters tall and weighed as much as a small vehicle. Tae-ho did not try to fight Bonecrusher's incredible strength. Instead, he used the alien's own mass against him. The warrior was standing on a maintenance cover that led to the base's main water treatment system. Tae-ho had spent an hour weakening the metal support beams underneath. When Bonecrusher stepped forward to investigate a suspicious noise, the cover gave way. The alien fell 20 meters into a concrete-lined pit filled with industrial machinery. His own weight drove him into the grinding gears that processed the base's sewage. The machinery was not designed to handle objects that large, and it jammed immediately. By the time the other assassins found him, Bonecrusher had been crushed to death by the very strength that had made him famous. Tae-ho's note was waiting for them at the bottom of the pit. 6 left, it said. Your employers should have told you what happened to the last army that tried to hurt human children. The reference made the surviving aliens nervous. Every species in the galaxy knew about the Kepler massacre. Human soldiers had discovered alien raiders trying to capture children for the slave trade. The humans had fought to the last man rather than let a single child be harmed. They had killed over 1,000 raiders before dying themselves. Now the assassins began to understand what they were really facing. Kim Tae-ho was not just any human warrior, he was one of the soldiers who had been at Kepler Station. He had watched children die and sworn that it would never happen again. That experience had burned away everything soft and gentle in his soul. The message was clear. These aliens had made the same mistake as the Kepler raiders. They had threatened something a human soldier was sworn to protect. Now they would learn why humanity had never lost a war against any alien species. Vex realized that taking hostages might not work the way he had planned, but they were committed now. The reputation of galactic assassins everywhere depended on completing this mission. They could not return to their employers empty-handed. The shapeshifter looked at his 5 remaining teammates and began to plan their final assault. They would take the hostages as planned but be ready for anything. Kim Tae-ho had surprised them too many times already. They would not underestimate him again, but as they prepared for their next move, none of them noticed the small surveillance drone watching them from outside their building. Tae-ho had been monitoring their every word and planning his next trap. The aliens thought they were the hunters, but they had been his prey from the very beginning. The empty house felt like a tomb. Commander Kim Tae-ho sat in his living room chair staring at nothing. The clock on the wall ticked loudly in the silence. Each tick reminded him that time kept moving forward even though his world had stopped. 3 months ago, the coffee cup on the kitchen table still had a lipstick mark from when his wife Lee So-ra drank from it that last morning. He could not bring himself to wash it. The pink mark was proof that she had been real, that she had been here, that she had loved him. Now she was gone and he was alone in their house that felt too big and too quiet. So-ra had been everything to him. She was brilliant and kind and funny. She made the best kimchi in the entire military base. She sang old Korean songs while she cooked dinner. She fell asleep reading technical manuals about spaceship engines and woke up with equations written on her cheek. She called him her brave soldier boy even though he was 45 years old and had fought in 12 different wars. The day she died started like any other day. So-ra kissed him goodbye at the spaceport. She was going to Mars Colony 7 to help install new defense systems. It was supposed to be a routine job. She would be gone for 2 weeks, then come home with stories about the red planet and gifts for their neighbors. Tae-ho went to his office that morning and did paperwork. He trained new recruits in hand-to-hand combat. He ate lunch with his friend, General Park Min-ho, and complained about the new regulations from Earth Command. It was a normal, boring day. He had no idea that his wife was already dead. The call came at 1600 hours. Admiral Nam Soo-jin delivered the news in person. There had been an explosion at the Mars facility. A gas leak in the engineering section. 12 people died, including So-ra. Her body was being shipped back to Earth for burial, the admiral said. She died instantly without pain. He said it was an accident. Tae-ho remembered falling to his knees in his office. He remembered screaming until his throat was raw. He remembered Min-ho holding him while he cried like a child. Everything after that was a blur of funeral preparations and condolence visits and people saying they were sorry for his loss. The funeral was 3 days later. So-ra looked peaceful in her coffin, wearing the blue dress she wore on their wedding day. Hundreds of people came to pay their respects. She had been loved by everyone who knew her. Tae-ho stood beside the grave and listened to the speeches about what a wonderful person she had been. They lowered her into the ground and covered her with earth soil. Then everyone went home, and Tae-ho was alone. For 3 months he barely functioned. He went through the motions of living but felt dead inside. He ate when people brought him food. He slept when exhaustion overtook him. He answered his communicator when his superiors called, but he was not really alive anymore. He was just waiting to join So-ra wherever she had gone. His house was full of reminders of their life together. Her clothes still hung in the closet. Her books about stellar navigation filled the shelves. Her coffee cup sat unwashed on the table. Her garden in the backyard grew wild without her care. Taeho could not bear to change anything. Moving her. Things would make her death real in a way he was not ready to accept. At night he lay in their bed and stared at the ceiling. Sleep rarely came. When it did, he dreamed of her. In his dreams she was still alive and they were still happy. She would make breakfast while humming Korean folk songs. She would tease him about his snoring. She would curl up next to him and read her technical manuals while he watched old war movies. Then he would wake up and remember that she was gone, and the pain would hit him all over again. His fellow soldiers tried to help. They brought him meals and invited him to join them. For drinks. They offered to help him clean the house or tend the garden. But Taeho wanted to be left alone with his grief. He had been Earth's most feared warrior before he met Sora. He had led the charge that broke the Zephyr Empire. He had never retreated from any battle. But losing his wife had defeated him completely. General Minho visited every few days. He would sit in the kitchen and drink coffee and talk about work. He never mentioned Sora directly, but Taeho knew his old friend was worried about him. Minho had been the best man at their wedding. He had watched them fall in love and build a life together. Now he was watching Taeho fall apart. The house felt wrong without Sora in it. She had been the heart of their home. She filled every room with her presence. Her laughter had echoed off the walls. Her voice had called his name when he came home from missions. Her footsteps had moved through the halls. Now there was only silence and emptiness and the terrible weight of missing her. Taeho tried to remember the last thing she said to him. They had been standing at the spaceport saying goodbye. She was excited about the Mars assignment. She said it would help her career and maybe they could use the extra money to buy a bigger house. She wanted children someday and their current place was too small for a family. She kissed him and said she loved him and promised to call every day. Then she walked through the departure gate, and he never saw her alive again. The worst part was not knowing why she had to die. The official report said it was an accident. A faulty gas line had leaked and caused an explosion. But Sora was too careful to make that kind of mistake. She had been working with dangerous equipment for 15 years without a single incident. She always followed safety protocols to the letter. Something about the story did not make sense, but Taeho was too lost in grief to investigate. The empty rooms echoed with memories. The kitchen where she cooked his favorite meals. The living room where they watched movies together. The bedroom where they made love and planned their future. The backyard where she tended her flowers and talked about the children they would have someday. Every corner of the house reminded him of what he had lost. Then the message came that changed everything. It arrived on his personal communicator while he sat in Sora's garden watching her flowers die. The message was from Minho and it was marked urgent and classified. Taeho almost deleted it without reading. He was tired of urgent messages and classified briefings, but something made him open it. The words on the screen made his blood turn cold. Intelligence reports showed that Sora's death was not an accident. She had been murdered. She had discovered something about the Galactic Coalition that they wanted hidden, and now they were coming for him too. 10 alien assassins were already on their way to Earth with orders to kill Kim Taeho for the first time in 3 months. Taeho felt something other than grief. He felt rage burning in his chest like molten metal. These aliens had killed his beloved wife and now they wanted to kill him too. But they had made a terrible mistake. They had given him a reason to live. Again, they had given him a purpose. They had given him enemies to destroy. Taeho stood up from the garden chair and walked into his house. He went to the bedroom closet and moved Sora's dresses aside. Behind them was a weapons locker that held the tools of his old trade. As he opened the lock, his hands stopped shaking for the first time in months. The galaxy was about to remember why humans were the most dangerous predators in known space. The cargo ship arrived at Coalition Central 3 days after the space battle. It was a simple freight vessel flying Earth's flag and requesting permission to dock. The crew consisted of 2 humans who claimed to be delivering a diplomatic package. to the Galactic Council. Port authorities cleared them to land without inspection. Inside the cargo hold were 10 ornate coffins made from Earth's finest wood. Each coffin was carved with human symbols of death and remembrance. Korean characters spelled out prayers for the peaceful rest of souls. The craftsmanship was beautiful and respectful, despite the violent nature of their contents. Each coffin contained the perfectly preserved body of one of the assassins who had tried to kill Kim Tae-ho. They were dressed in traditional human burial clothes and surrounded by white flowers. The bodies showed no signs of the brutal way they had died. Someone had taken great care to restore their dignity, even in death. Captain Han Min-soo supervised the unloading with military precision. He was a veteran of the Outer Rim War who had served under Tae-ho during the siege of Prometheus Base. His orders were simple: deliver the coffins to the Coalition Council chambers and wait for their response. Show respect for the dead even if they had been enemies. The coffins were transported through the capital city on hover platforms, draped with both Earth and Coalition flags. Thousands of aliens lined the streets to watch the strange procession. Word had spread quickly about the failed assassination attempt and the destruction of 3 battleships. Everyone wanted to see what message the humans were sending. The Coalition Council met in emergency session to receive their unwanted delivery. Representatives from 50 different species gathered in the Great Assembly Hall. Many of them had supported the decision to eliminate Kim Tae-ho. Now they faced the consequences of that choice. Council Chairman Vex 7 was a distant relative of the shapeshifter who had led the assassination team. He stared at his cousin's coffin with a mixture of grief and fear. The humans could have simply destroyed the bodies or left them to rot. Instead, they had shown mercy to their fallen enemies. That mercy made their message even more terrifying. A holographic projector activated above each coffin. 10 identical images of Kim Tae-ho appeared in the chamber. He was sitting at a simple desk wearing his military dress uniform. Behind him hung a picture of his dead wife Lee So-ra smiling in her wedding dress. The contrast was heartbreaking and ominous. Honored members of the Galactic Coalition, Tae-ho began in flawless diplomatic language. I am Kim Tae-ho, commander of Earth's Special Operations Forces and widower of Lee So-ra. I am returning the bodies of your assassins as a gesture of respect for the honored dead. The council members shifted nervously in their seats. This was not what they had expected from a grieving human soldier. His voice was calm and professional. His manner was courteous and respectful. He looked like a diplomat delivering a routine message between allied governments. These warriors died in service to their government, Tae-ho continued. They followed their orders with courage and skill. They fought bravely even when they realized their mission had failed. I honor their dedication even though I could not permit them to succeed. Several council members exchanged glances. The human was treating their dead assassins like fallen heroes instead of murderous criminals. He was showing them more respect than they had shown his wife when they ordered her death. The irony was not lost on anyone present. However, Tae-ho said, and his voice grew colder, their mission was based on false information. Your intelligence services told you that I was a broken man destroyed by grief. They said I would be easy prey for professional killers. They were wrong about many things. The hologram paused while Tae-ho reached for a datapad. He consulted. It briefly then looked back at the camera with eyes like winter ice. When he spoke again, his words carried the weight of absolute certainty. My wife So-ra discovered evidence of illegal activities involving coalition officials and criminal organizations. She found proof that human colony locations were being sold to slave traders. She was murdered to prevent this information from reaching Earth authorities. The assassination attempt against me was meant to cover up these crimes. Council Chairman Vex 7 felt his blood turn cold. How did this human know about the slave trading operation? The records had been destroyed. The witnesses had been eliminated. There should be no evidence linking the coalition to those activities. I want you to understand something very important, Tae-ho continued. I am not interested in your politics or your territorial disputes. I do not care about trade agreements or diplomatic protocols. I care only about justice for my wife and protection for my people. The image stood up from behind the desk and walked closer to the camera. Now the aliens could see the full effect of 3 months of grief and rage. Teho looked like a man who had died inside and been resurrected as something harder and more dangerous. His uniform was perfect, but his eyes belonged to a predator. "Every person involved in Sora's murder will be brought to justice," he said. "Every official who authorized the slave trade will answer for their crimes. Every criminal who profited from human suffering will pay with their lives. This is not a threat or a negotiation. This is a promise." The hologram reached into a desk drawer and pulled out a thick file folder. He opened it and began reading names and locations. Coalition officials recognized some of the names immediately. They were high-ranking government ministers and wealthy crime bosses, people who thought themselves untouchable. Counselor Rexfor of the Andromeda sector, Teho read calmly. Currently hiding on his private moon base, Minister Goth 9 of the Trade Regulation Bureau, believed to be seeking asylum on Kepler 7, Crime Lord Sax 2 of the Outer Rim Syndicate, last seen entering hyperspace near the Vega system. The list continued for several minutes. Dozens of names and current locations. The humans had been busy gathering intelligence while the galaxy thought they were mourning their defeat. Every corrupt official and criminal leader involved in the slave trade had been identified and tracked. "You have a choice to make," Teho said when he finished reading. "Surrender these individuals to Earth authorities for trial. Let them face justice in human courts for their crimes against human civilians. Prove that the Coalition still believes in law and order." The alternative was left unspoken but clearly understood. If the Coalition did not hand over the criminals, Teho would come for them personally. The fate of the 10 assassins showed what happened to those who stood in his way. "I am returning to active duty tomorrow," the human continued. "My first assignment will be hunting down everyone on this list. I suggest you decide quickly whether you want to cooperate or obstruct this investigation. Your choice will determine whether we remain allies or become enemies." The hologram paused again while Teho picked up the picture of his wife. He stared at her smiling face for a long moment. When he looked back at the camera, his expression had softened slightly. For just an instant he looked like the broken widower the aliens had expected to face. "So we're relieved in peace between our species," he said quietly. She thought aliens and humans could learn to trust each other. She dreamed of a galaxy where different races worked together to explore the stars. "I shared those dreams once." The softness vanished as quickly as it had appeared. Now Teho looked like the professional killer he had always been underneath his diplomat's mask. The transformation was terrifying in its completeness. "Your people murdered those dreams along with my wife," he said. "Now you will live with the consequences. Every government in this galaxy will learn to respect humanity or they will learn to fear us. There is no third option." The final part of the message was delivered while Teho placed a white flower on Sora's picture. The gesture was tender and loving, but his words carried the promise of unlimited violence for anyone who threatened his people. "My wife wanted children," he said. "She wanted to see them grow up in a galaxy where humans were welcomed and respected. She wanted to teach them about the wonders of space travel and alien cultures. You stole that future from her. You stole it from me. You stole it from the children we will never have." Teho looked directly into the camera one last time. The aliens watching felt like he was staring into their souls. Some of them had nightmares about those eyes for years afterward. "I cannot bring back my wife," he said. "I cannot recover the life we should have had together. But I can make sure that no other human family suffers the way we have suffered. I can teach this galaxy to leave Earth alone. And I can make everyone responsible for Sora's death pay for their crimes." The hologram flickered and went dark, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. For several minutes no one spoke. The implications of what they had just heard were too enormous to process immediately. One human soldier had just declared war on the galaxy's criminal underworld. Council, Chairman Vex 7 was the first to break the silence. He stood up slowly and looked around the chamber at his fellow representatives. Many of them were staring at the coffins with new understanding. These were not just dead assassins. They were a message written in blood and wood. "Motion to table all current business," Vex 7 said in a shaky voice. "Motion to convene emergency session on human relations. Motion to review all recent activities involving Earth colonies."